эксперт приехал комментировать.
Коллеги, внимание! Ректор нашего университета и директор-основатель профессор Владимир Нечаев, доктор политических наук. Открываем наш семинар. Первым докладчиком будет Евгений Поляков, преподаватель Воронежского государственного университета. Он расскажет politically motivated violence. And let's select language. If he will speak English or in Russian. What's your choice? Какой ваш выбор?
Ну, насколько вы нас английский бы правильно. Давайте на английский.
Please, Evgeny, speak English. If anybody will not understand, just ask question. No problem. А вот же есть там, вот есть стикер. Стикер есть. Вот.
So, dear colleagues, shall we begin?
Could we turn on the lights? Because it's hard to see the screen.
Light?
It's okay?
I will read everything which is here.
Sure. All right.
My topic is politically motivated violence, the general characteristics and the features of contemporary North Caucasus. Well, first of all, I think we must explain the terms which we will use in our discussion. And first term is what precisely is the North Caucasus. I mean the borders of this region. Usually when we speak about Caucasus, we mean North Caucasus, the south of Russia. South of Russian Federation. That means all regions that are south than Don and near Volga. There are 2 points of view. How many regions we must include into North Caucasus? One of them is that North Caucasus includes only republics of former Ottoman Soviet Socialistic republics, which populated by Caucasian people. That is from east to west, Dagestan, Chechnya, Ingushetia, North Ossetia, Kabardino-Balkaria, Karachay-Cherkessia, and Adygea, except Kalmykia. And the second point of view includes in this region also another regions of Russian South, Republic of Kalmykia, Astrakhan, and Rostov, and Volgograd Oblast, and also Krasnodar and Stavropol Krais regions. Here is a map, administrative map of North Caucasus Federal District. Now the south of Russia is divided into federal districts. South Federal District and North Caucasus. And capital is city of Petrogorsk. And I will speak about this part of North Caucasus, precisely about the Ottoman republics. Back. The most important characteristic of regions, I think, is that this federal district is the one federal district in contemporary Russia which populated mostly by Muslims. Almost 60 or maybe 65% estimated of population are Muslims, and their number increased from census to census during last 4 decades. the North Caucasus is home to about 10 million people. It's not so high urbanized region, like for example central of Russia, for example Moscow region, and so on. And the population is very multi-ethnic. There are many ethnic groups. No one group has a majority of population. Even Russians, who are the biggest ethnic group in the region, well, their numbers is about 3.5 million people from the map. So there isn't an ethnic majority. Then other largest nations are Chechen, Avars, Ossetians, Dargins, and others. So the second question is what is the violence? Well, if we see in vocabulary as examples from the English Oxford Dictionary, the violence can be defined as the use of physical force to cause bodily harm or destruction. And since political violence we can define it as a physical force used for expression of use of power, or to change the authority, or to strengthen it. The both senses. The third topic is the violence as a social institution. Well, there are many definitions of what we can tell about what is the social institution. Here they are. But the most important, methinks, is the point of view by Douglas North. He's a Nobel Prize laureate in economics. She described institutions as a game of rules, the structure of interaction, which control and limit the relations of individuals. So we can see that on this point of view, we can say that the violence is a social institution, because in many cases it really controls and limits the relations between people. In theory of North, there are two very important definitions. Orders, social orders. And Douglas North divide all societies in human history in two types. The society of limited order and order of limited access and order of free access. He means the access to the institutions, especially to property, to education, to violence, and to authority. So the model of free access characterized by the free access to political and economic development, a strong and dynamic civil society, and a large number of independent from state civil organizations. For example, like political parties. The model of limited access is characterized by slowly growing economies, political system which is not based on the common consent of citizens, and relatively small number of organizations, a smaller and more centralized government, and the rule of personal connections between citizens. Well, the legal condition of the founding of ownership and rights of an access to the resources of power, and fair trial, and independence of courts, create the possibility of transition from limited access order to the open access order. That's precisely what was made in Europe in the end of Middle Ages in 16th, 17th century. Intermediate stage of this transitional process now called bastard feudalism. Nothing is illegitimate the bastard character from the point of view of both the ruling coalition, the elites, and the masses. And me thinks that contemporary Russia is can be described in this term as a bastard feudalism. It is already not a limited access order, but not yet free access. The feudal model. Now, the same point of view is developed by Russian-American sociologist Vladimir Shapentov. Well, he left Soviet Union, even not Russia, in 1972. Well, he is one of the most famous Soviet sociologists, like Yadov.
Yeah, I don't know about his own compounds.
Okay. He described, Shapentov described like North contemporary Russian society as feudal, neo-feudal, and he thinks that the most important features of our society is following. The central government should cooperate with various powerful forces, regional elites, churches, maybe militant leaders and others. And in exchange for legitimacy, all sorts of social powers supply the supreme leader. In this definition, there are two key aspects. First, the contractual nature of relationship between the between the Moscow and the regions. And the second, the subject of this contract is legitimacy. In feudal society, the state haven't a monopoly on violence. Well, we know that немецкий социолог, который говорил об обществе, Weber, да. We know that Max Weber described the modern society as a society in which state have a monopoly on the violence. So in feudal society, no one has such a monopoly. Not only the state, but also other actors too. And the government is just first among equals, like a king in the Middle Ages. And the only thing that can attract partners proving authorization for any action by the central government. And thus the state is always weak and depends on other actors, other players of the game. The warlords. One more concept. I think that on North Caucasus, the most important actor after the state are the so-called warlords. Well, in English it's the common word, and in Russian it cannot be even correctly translated to Russian because warlords mean the ruler who used the war to become a power. Не совсем, нет.
Почти.
В том-то и дело, да. Обычно просто транскрибируют. Warlord и пишут. controlled by warlords usually consists with the boundaries of the settlement of the group from which it takes place, either ethnic, social, professional, religious group, or something else. Warlords enjoy central legitimacy from the people they ruled and replace or subordinate functions, institutions, and resources of the state. And economics often is in such areas mixed and limited to one or other illegal activities. For example, narco traffic or something like that. Although it's non-confined within the area. One of the famous scientists who described what is the violence and how it arises was Hannah Arendt. More than 40 years ago, she wrote her book named On Violence, where he described the interconnection between four terms: power, strength, authority, and violence. Well, there is also difficult in translation into Russian. Because usually these both terms, power and authority, translate as the same in the same term, власть. But in English there is a difference between them. So the power corresponds to the human ability to act in a concept, and a strange designates something in the singular, to act in singular, and individual entity. Authority is recognition by those who are asked to obey, and so it is vice versa to violence. When you have authority, you shouldn't use violence to make something. You can ask, for example, yes. And violence distinguished by instrumental character. We can define that if in any case someone uses the violence, we can say that this actor haven't power, have a lack of legitimacy, or maybe haven't access to another resources. For example, to money, to public position, to mass media, and so on. And in situation of this lack, he haven't another mode for action. Only use violence. Political terrorism is a kind of violence. Two American scientists, Schmidt and John, in their book titled Political Terrorism, collected more than 100 definitions of terrorism, both academic and official. Among them were the definitions of Department of the State of United States, Ministry of International Affairs of France, and so on. They tried to search among components of these definitions to find, and they found that the term violence, the element of violence in definition, was included in 53.5% of these elected definitions. Political goals in 65%, and 51% emphasized the element of inflicted fear and terror. So they argued that the most important features of terrorism are these three elements: the use of violence, the political objectives of the actors who use the violence, and the intention of sowing fear in a target population. Well, during the last 2 decades, in many regions of whole world, we can find examples of terrorist movements in South America, in Sub-Saharan Africa, in Southeast Asia, in Middle East, and so on. The most common explanation why it's so is the rise of the youth. There is a so-called youth bulge theory developed by Michael Graham Fuller and many others. For example, in Germany, Gunnar Heinzon, in Sweden, Henrik Urdal, in Hungary, Peter Rada, and so on. And these scientists think that the rise of these terrorist movements are based on the rise of the youth in population. And they are neither poor nor low educated in common, particularly the leaders. And so we cannot say that the emergence of terrorist movements are interconnected with the social economic situation in the country. Maybe it is so, maybe it isn't so, because there are examples on the vice versa. And that is right, that it isn't. But in each region there are many young people. So it is a youth bulge theory. In the community, the structure of population in which the share of young people under 24 years of age is not less than 20%, will be observed general political instability, a tendency toward authoritarianism, and coup d'etats or revolutions, and followed by a flash of illegitimate violence against the most vulnerable people. Also, it's important that bulge rise not only where there are many young people in such countries, for example, like China. Well, we see the Chinese state. Yeah. But also where young people are forced to compete with each other for access to prestigious position and social status. And the scale of social system also doesn't matter. Youth bulge can occur both at the level of society as a whole, or in the diaspora community, or in the one region, in the big country, and so on. Gunnar Heinzon, in his book Zone und Weltmacht, in German, I don't know, is it translated to English or not? I have read it in German. Published his study, study of 67 countries of the world, and in 60 in these countries was political instability and so on. And he published his work in 2006, and he wrote that the most vulnerable and interesting region in this sense in our time will be Middle East. Here, many authoritarian regimes in few years will be collapsed, will be crushed by such movements. And so we can see now an example of so-called Arab Spring, that this theory can be able to explain the changes the crashes of regimes. So I mean, it isn't only just a theory. We can use it to in political analysis. Now about the Caucasus, namely. Main tendencies in developing of Caucasian terrorism during the last decade. Well, of course, I can tell you, if it will be necessary, you may ask me, the data about what have we youth bulge or have we not. So in 3 republics of North Caucasus, and those republics are the most violent. It is Ingushetia, Chechen Republic, and Dagestan. There are bulges. And others on the northeast of Caucasus, Karachay-Cherkessia, Kabardino-Balkaria, and Adygea, there are bulges only among migrants, in migrant society, in migrant communities. And if we see the empirical data on who attempt in terrorist attacks in these regions, we can see that they are not, usually they are not native. On the northeast of Caucasus and native population in Dagestan and so on. So that's why I prefer to use this theory for explanation the development of terrorism. Well, 4 tendencies. First is the shift from east to west. Previously, during the 1990s and the beginning of 2000s, most attacks occurred in Chechnya, but now they often occur in the my mistake, in the eastern region, of course, of the North Caucasus. Shift from south to north. The second. Now the terrorist attacks on the security forces carried out primarily not in mountains, not on the south of the region, but on the flats and the plants in the north. Changes in object of terrorist attack. Compared also with the beginning of 2000, the proportion of civilian victims of terrorist attacks has increased from 1 to 11 to 1 to 2. And changes in infrastructure and organization. Now the basis of the underground of the jihadism of in North Caucasus are not large units such as battalions or regiments, but a small mobile groups including 3, 7, or maybe a dozen of people, so-called jamaats. This is a common term in Islamic world. Jamaat means community. Here there is some empirical data. The growth of an active body of terrorism according to number of violent incidents. Also according to the number of victims. There is a growth. So we can see that the shift in former Chechen Ingush Autonomous Soviet Socialist Republic